Hello everybody and welcome. I am joined by Elio and Carlos from BigChildCreatives and Burning Games, and today we're having a look at Coreball. So this is going to be a bit of an intro into the world and the backstory of this game. So guys, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have you here.
Same thing.
What is Coreball?
It's a pleasure to be here as well. Well, thank you for having us. Coreball is a 2 to 4 players sports game, and it's about 2 to 4 teams that compete to control the ball. They're launched at high speeds to an asteroid field or a similar field, and they just have to keep control of the ball while avoiding asteroids, going through railguns that will push them in different directions, and just striving to stay safe.
Now, this is a game that you guys have designed to be very much a competitive piece. So you're wanting to actually see game stores and stuff running nice big tournaments of this, having different teams play against each other. How deep can people go with their tactics on this game?
Very deep, to be honest. So there's a lot of different combinations. Each character has 1 or 2 unique abilities, and then each character has 6 skills. So all of the skills are shared among all of the players. Some might be good at some stuff, some might be bad at it, and some might not even be able to use them. But there's 6 skills and 1 or 2 special abilities per character, right? So when you put that together in a team of 5 players on the board, plus 3 guys that you're going to have in the reserve, and that you're going to be able to swap some characters in the board right in the reserve at certain times in the game. You have a lot of synergies that can emerge from that. And you can adapt yourself, so you can put 5 guys on the board to get the ball, and once you get the ball, you can adapt yourself, take 2 or 3 out, and enter with another 2 or 3 that will help you keep the ball, because it's a different thing that you're trying to do.
Now, one of the things I've noticed about the game, which I personally really love, is that you're not just constantly gaining points. There's a certain amount of resource management to it, where you're gaining points, but you're also considering, do I spend points or do I sort of penalize my opponent by knocking points off his score? It's a very nice different balance that you can actually have for this kind of game. Off you go.
That's right. So as you mentioned, you can have basically 2 different strategies. You can just try to score as many points as you can by controlling the ball, or you can try and cause your opponent to lose points by pushing their players out or by injuring them against asteroids, or by crossing force fields, things like that. So yeah.
Now, one of the key features of this game is actually the board, because it's different to any other board game I've ever seen before, because the board is constantly changing. You have a nice sort of twist on how 3-dimensional space works. So if we look at the board here, you can actually see.
We call it the floating board. That's kind of like the name for it. And the idea is that you can remove the tile underneath the board and swap it for a new one underneath the flyers without having to move them, right? So they move independently from the movement of the tile. And basically the idea is that it's representing that the characters are moving in space and these things are coming towards them, right? So what you see on the board at this stage is the asteroids and all that stuff that is coming towards them now. And at the end of the round, a new random tile will come in, and the new stuff is going to come towards them.
I love this because it's forcing you to be constantly tactically flexible, because if you're looking at the game and you're thinking, okay, I have this tile perfectly sussed, I know exactly what I'm doing, I've got myself set up for next turn, and it changes, and suddenly you get the most horrendous layout of gates, terrain, obstacles that you could ever want, and it's suddenly having to go, okay, well, I have to change everything I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. So the tile is interesting in the sense that there's basically 2 main things in there. You got obstacles, which can be found between squares, and when you move through them, they will do something to you, right? And then there's the area terrain that will do something to you at the end of the round if you're on top of them. So you can begin the round there, but then move out and you're safe. It's basically you're seeing them coming towards you. And you have to rearrange all of your plans depending on what is coming towards you and what obstacles you have to jump at this precise moment. You have to stay flexible, and like Carlos said before, you can do that by changing which flyers you have on the board at any particular time. So if the new tile is not to advantage
two advantages for you. Maybe you can swap some of your flyers and bring people in that will help you in that specific situation.
Now, I have to say the flyers are very flavorful because I've been having a look, reading some of the different stats. I've actually put my favorite one in beneath camera here because this one character named Wally, he just is big, he is heavy, and you see the way he's sitting on a piece of area terrain here. He actually doesn't care. It's his special ability that if he's on there, he doesn't mind at all. He'll just sit and just grind along the thing. And if he wants, he can actually grab someone, by the back of the helmet and just, run that face along an asteroid just for a good time.
That's basically how you play him. You want to grab someone and bring him with you to the asteroid because nothing will happen to you, but he will take the hit.
Again, it's one of those cinematic moments that you can imagine as just this character holding someone and just running them along the side of it as he continues to hold them and then zooming off to the next one. Right. Now, one of the things I did want to cover was the different stats. Just for everybody at home very quickly, I'd like to give us a quick rundown on what each of the stats is because there are 6 of them. And I always say, whenever you're learning stats that are symbol-based, it's like learning a micro-language. As soon as you understand that micro-language, you can instantly read everything very quickly, which is what I love about this game. Is it's very light and everything's baked in. So from top to bottom, what do we have here?
So we got a ball, that's the one on the top. And basically you'll use ball for everything related to ball, from stealing the ball, to passing the ball, to defending the ball as well, right? And well, it's very important skill, of course, because you get the points with the ball skill. Then the next one, there's an armor with an impact. That's pushing. So characters can push each other, and if you push a character, he has to move to an adjacent square. So if this character was to be pushed, the green player could choose in which square he has to move and which obstacles he has to cross. But if this one was pushing this one, then he could be pushed out. And that will cost you points.
Yes. And then next one down, we have sort of a fist.
Yeah, grappling. So grappling is very nice. When you grapple a character, as you said, with Wally, you force him to move with you. And the only thing that player can do now is try to ungrapple himself or wait for a friendly to come and help him being grappled. And you force the movement of the player, you limit his choices, and it is very handy. You can also get out of the board with him because maybe he has a special ability that you don't want active in the board, so and you don't care losing points as well if you manage to take him out.
And again, that comes down to that nice resource management. It might cost me 1 point, but if I'm costing you 2, that's twice as good for me.
Exactly.
And then next down we have 3 little arrows.
So that's dodge. So an interesting thing is that in this game is that you can aggressively counter actions. So pushing and grappled can be countered by pushing back, grappling back, or by dodge. Right? So dodge doesn't do anything to your opponent. It just makes him fail the action. So why would you choose one or the other? Well, it depends on the situation you are in. Which skill is your better skill, and you have more choices, more chances. Sorry. But also because if you push back or you grapple back, you're going to get tired. If a character gets tired, that means during his next activation, he doesn't have an action. So sometimes even if your dodge is not as good as your grappling, for example, you don't want to grapple back because that character is just a distraction for you. You have a main objective that you want to get to.
You have a job for his activation.
Exactly, so you don't want to lose it. So you take the chance of losing the confrontation or whatever, and you go for the dodge.
And I suppose as the aggressive player, it can be worth your while just to load in maybe a couple of different people trying to grapple someone to try and force them to take 1 or maybe even 2 tired tokens. Just because they kind of have to stop themselves being taken out like that.
There's a lot of strategies like that and mind games about like timing. Like in most strategic games, timing is essential. So when do you activate a player? When do you care about him being tired or not? That's key for a good strategy.
Okay, the next 2 symbols are actually kind of linked together. So what do we have there?
So we got hacking and firewall. So hacking, basically you choose any character on the board, doesn't matter where he is, and if you hack him, you give him a hack token, and that character cannot move for his next activation. And firewall is basically your counter against that.
Now that can be incredibly useful because if we are flying through space at high speed and I hack someone who's trying to get out of an asteroid field, it kind of locks them down in place,
Exactly.
and they kind of have to either spend the resources of a character to actually go in and get them out of there. So I mean, like Wally would be the perfect example. If one of my team's locked down and about to hit an asteroid, I can knock him out of the way with him, and Wally can just sit there going, "Well, I don't care."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can push your own players, and that's an automatically successful action. And as you said, it's very handy to save yourself.
Yeah.
And what you said about hacking, yeah, it's very important for the timing as well, what we were just speaking about. Because if you have someone, so remember that the asteroid will only affect you at the end of the round, so you can stay there until the end of the round, right?
Yes.
But the longer you stay there, the more chances are that someone thinks that it's worth hacking that person and keep him there.
Yeah.
Keep him there.
Yeah. To me, probably hacking is one of the most overlooked skills, because it not only serves you to hack other players, but it also serves you to manipulate the terrain, actually. So you can also turn off obstacles, you can turn off dangerous force fields, or you can create a trap for your opponent, things like that. So it's,
You can't turn off the asteroids, of course, but the obstacles, all the stuff that is electronic, you can turn it off.
Yeah, so the red ones will actually do you damage, the yellow ones will make you tired, and these ones will give you, what is it?
Momentum.
Momentum, yes. So you'll actually start drifting whenever you go through those particular railguns, isn't it?
Yeah. They're called railguns, and they give you momentum. Momentum is a very interesting thing. So basically, each of the railguns has an arrow, and they point towards one of the symbols on the sides of the board. So you're going to get a token when you cross it. You get a token of the color and shape of that corner. And at the end of the round, before you have to resolve the terrain and crash against stuff, you are forced to move the number of spaces equal to the number of momentum tokens you got. And you keep that until the end of the game, unless you move through railguns in the opposite direction, or you leave the board to the reserve. Right? So that represents the lack of air and the gravity that you're playing in. If you get a little bit of speed in one direction, you're going to keep that speed until you manage to get something in the opposite direction.
Yeah, it's again we were actually talking about possible playtest rules for stuff. Hearing that actually gave me the idea. What if you actually had a character with the ability so that whenever he pushed you, you actually gained a momentum in that direction?
There is such a character.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Oh.
There's a character who can gain momentum, and he has an ability that gives him momentum. He can also cross through railguns to gain momentum, and then whenever he pushes someone, he can move his own momentum to the opponent's.
to the opponent, yeah.
Right.
Super punch.
Yeah, but it's dangerous sometimes, because sometimes you're like, oh, I'm going to cross two railguns and then punch this guy.
Yeah,
and then you fail, and then you have two momentum in the direction, and and you fly off.
Oh, that is fabulous. That is absolutely fabulous. This is a really, really deep tactical game from what I've seen of it. We've got a couple of games in the can. They will come out. And it's just an absolute blast whenever it's you're thinking against your opponent, trying to guess who will they activate, who will they not. Like I played one game where Wally unfortunately got locked down quite a bit, and it was just me sitting there going, but he's so good, why are you doing this to him? Because he's so good.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, now you guys have given me some images to actually show everybody as well, so would you like to maybe start cycling through them?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, so what do we have first here? The main board.
Yeah, this is a setup for 2 players. It showcases the Space Sharks in red. They are specialized in pushing people out of the way, and the Techno Ticks in purple. And the Techno Ticks are all about hacking, manipulating the board, and running different tricks.
I see.
Like that.
I see. Moving along. Oh, hello.
That's a friend.
Hello, Wally.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the design work. Which of the... Now, I know this is a partnership between the 2 companies, so which of the 2 companies is responsible for the art design and the direction?
So that's Burning Games.
That was Burning Games, yeah.
Okay.
Burning Games did all the concept art, and then BigChildCreatives created the miniatures from that concept art. Yeah.
I love it whenever you've got 2 creative groups coming together to make something beautiful. And look at him. He's gorgeous. Next up, Preachers. Who are these guys?
So the Preachers are completely different. All of their playstyle is based around getting the ball, right? And they have a lot of synergies. So they have So usually in the game, basically, when it's your turn, you can activate only one player and one flyer, and then it's your opponent's turn, and you go back and forth, right?
Yes.
So these guys, with a bunch of trickery, they can activate maybe 2 or 3 of their own guys in the same round. So they are weak by stats, but they are very strong in their strategies and the emergent gameplay that they can create. So one can leave the board, and automatically a friendly from the reserve can move back in. And they can do all this kind of stuff that is very, very cool and very handy.
Okay, so if you're the kind of player that likes playing tricksy shenanigans and movement games with your opponent, this might be the one for you.
Sort of mind games. There's one character, for example, that can at any time swap positions with another one. So usually if someone is trying to do some evil stuff to a character that is very important for your strategy, and you have the other one somewhere on the board, they can just swap. So if he's being pushed, then the other one will be being pushed and stuff like that. And sometimes you're like, oh, this area is safe because everyone who's there has been activated. Well, it is not.
No. Very cool. Okay, so Space Sharks, you quickly mentioned these guys like to push people about. I'm guessing they have the strongest engines in their suits?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the case. They are specialized in pushing and also manipulating momentum, which is the other side of pushing and movement, right?
Yep. Next up, Techno Techs. Oh, very high-tech looking.
Yeah, so Techno Ticks are the most high-tech guys. They are mostly cyborgs. And basically, they like hacking, and they like manipulating the terrain. And then they have some other trickery, like usually flyers from other teams, if they're hackers, they're just hackers. But these ones are always like a hacker with a little bit of a spice. So there's one, for example, that if he hacks someone, he can choose, instead of giving him a hack token, to move him one square.
Oh, that's... no.
Yeah, so that's quite terrible if it happens to you.
Well, there are so many ways that could affect you badly. You can either be moved into terrain, so you're taking damage, you could actually, on this particular tile, if it was someone here, you could move them through if they've already activated and leave them on an asteroid, so they're taking 1 and then 2 points of damage.
Yeah, in 2 damage, you are gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can take only 2 points of damage.
Yeah, after your second, you're out of the game.
You're out of the game.
Flying back to the hangar.
Yeah, so with 1 damage, your skills are reduced. Basically, the idea is...
yeah, so we've got the regular side of the card, and then when it flips, you keep all your skills, but your stats go down just a little bit. Yeah.
So, but so they are very strong in their hacking and in the trickery, but they're very weak against being pushed and grapple around. So you have to, when you want to face them, you want to be very aggressive at the beginning, so you can counter that.
I see. All right. Next, we have some gorgeous looking artwork. Who are these?
So these are the Mercenaries, and the Mercenaries can be carried by anyone. So because it's a very competitive game, you choose one of the teams, right? And then you go and compete with friends.
Yes.
So if you're doing, let's say, like a little tournament between the 3 of us, right? What we would do is I create a team, you create a team, Elio creates his own team as well. And then when we join together to play, if let's say I am playing you, teams are composed of 8 flyers, and I go to play against you with 6 Techno Ticks, for example. But I keep 2 spaces open to get some Mercenaries to fight against you specifically, right? So I saw my team of 6 Techno Ticks, you saw me your team of 5 Space Sharks, for example, right? And then we take turns to choose Mercenaries to counter whatever we think you're going to do with your team, right? And then when I play Elio, I can choose another 2 different Mercenaries to fit his game style, right?
I see. So there's a mini draft at the beginning of the game for any open slots on your team.
Yep, exactly.
So you got
Very nice.
like 2 layers of strategy. The first one is when you choose your starting members of the team, and then when you choose your mercenaries to counter what your opponent has chosen at the beginning.
Exactly.
I see.
Right. So each mercenary is good at one of the different things. So he is good at tricks, he's good at hacking, he's good at movement, he's good at ball, he's good at grappling, and he's good at pushing, right? But they don't have many synergies. They're just good characters and whatever it is they do.
Yeah. So they're making up the lacks in those teams because the teams are very specialized.
Yes.
Awesome stuff, and absolutely gorgeous as well. I love this art direction. You know, it feels super sci-fi, but I'm seeing, you know, little sponsorship brands going on
Yeah,
with suits
exactly.
and stuff.
Well, they are mercenaries. They need to get
Oh,
their
yeah, they
money
need to get
from
money.
somewhere.
And then who are these guys?
Yeah, so these are the bulldogs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so what's their play style? I mean, like we already know my favorite Wally. This I'm gonna be honest now. This is kind of the team I'm going for, but I'll let the guys run ahead and tell us how they play.
All right, so the bulldogs are all about aggression, but rather than pushing you out, they grapple.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is they prevent you from running the tricks you had up your sleeve. So they will just shut you down. That's what they do. And they also have a few jacks of all trades that will make your life hell when you are grappled by their teammates.
I feel kind of bad for saying I like this faction after that description. It sounds like a very, very mean side, but everybody and every team in this game has their mean tricks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, that's right.
So these guys have a very cool character that when he activates, he copies the text abilities of anyone else on the board, either from your team or your opponents. So that gives you a lot of flexibility, and there's a lot of mind tricks going on with that. Like sometimes you actually want to leave the board with a very important player.
Yeah.
Because even if it's going to cost you 1 point, you don't want Chameleon, that's like his name, at that point getting your ability, you know?
Yeah. So Chameleon is the first guy here.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they also have some tricks with the deck. So we didn't explain that actually, but to resolve actions, you got a deck of,
I'll grab these
cards. Yeah.
So it's this little deck here.
Yeah. And basically, whenever you do an action, the action is going to be confronted, and what each of you is going to do is you're going to draw one random card from the top of the deck and add the value in that card
So
to your
say I
skill.
was doing a push here. I
Yeah.
would start with 3,
Yeah. And
and then I would add a 4.
Yeah, so that's a 7. And then your opponent would do the same, and whoever has the highest value wins. In case of a draw, the attacker wins. And what happens is if the attacker loses, but only the attacker loses, as a consolation prize, he gets to keep the card, because each card has a little text ability, right?
Yeah.
So if you are playing it just for the confrontation, you only use the value, but if you keep it, you get the text ability. And that's a little reaction or instant that you can use at certain points and come in handy.
So it's good to be aggressive in this game from the sound of this.
Yeah, you always want to be aggressive, because even if you lose, you get a card.
Yeah.
And that's an ability I can get.
Yeah.
And especially with these guys, because they can manipulate the cards. So that's very cool.
Yeah. Nice. And again, gorgeous. Next up, Space Sharks.
Yeah.
So they're very good at pushing. Give me a character from here that you love.
Right, that would be Sherion for me. He's the best pusher in the game.
Right.
It's unoriginal, but he just works.
And I think, is that this gentleman here?
Yeah.
I love the dynamism you've caught in the miniatures on these as well, because it does look as if they are hanging in space.
He's just got the rocket arm. He's just gonna push you out, no matter what.
Yeah,
So-
you want to hack him as soon as possible.
Really?
Just keep him in his place.
Okay, you've been warned.
My favorite one, if I can
Of
say,
course.
is going to be Therinth.
Uh-huh.
This is the team's captain. And she has a very cool ability. Well, he has 2 cool abilities. At any time, she can gain 1 momentum in any direction. And at any time, she can resolve it.
Oh.
And that gives her the chance of getting +1 movement, basically, or moving through a railgun and then counter it, because you gain the momentum in the opposite direction.
Okay, important question. If I'm playing this character and I've got like 2 momentum on me and I choose to resolve momentum, does that resolve both?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you could move many times, like depending on how much momentum you got.
Okay, bit of a slingshot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can just fly off, but you just have to consider it, and that gives her a lot of flexibility, because she can enter places you weren't expecting, and she can take higher risks.
Very cool. Very, very cool. All right, next up is Preachers.
Yeah.
We've heard a little bit about these ones. Who would you say is your best?
I really like Blender. Blender is the one that can swap places with whomever.
Okay, if Blender's sitting here, give him to me.
Yeah.
Or her to me. Apologies.
Her. Yes.
Oh, wow.
These are her.
And I like the fact, are these going to come colored whenever people pick them up
Yes.
at retail?
Yeah.
So,
Color and pre-built.
so what you're seeing now are resin prototypes that we assembled ourselves and painted with spray paints.
Yep.
But the final game will come with pre-assembled plastic miniatures in the color of their team.
I see. Now, there's one important thing. Currently, what sort of time frame are you guys aiming for your Kickstarter launch? Because I know we're closing in on it.
Yeah. We're looking at the beginning of April. So that would be probably April 2nd, something like that. Let's cross fingers, hope that everything goes well. But yeah, it's closing in on us.
Yeah, and then is this the first time you guys have went for a big miniatures game, or is it something you've done before? Is there much experience behind this?
Right. So we done RPGs before. We done one tiny board game. That it wasn't our game. It was from some friends of ours, but we really liked the idea, and we tried to put it out there. And we done a few miniatures. We did a few miniatures for Faith. That's an RPG line that we have. But Big Child has a lot of experience making miniatures. I'll let him tell you.
As Big Child, we've participated in some of the biggest Kickstarters out there, from Cool Mini or Not, like Zombicide Invaders, Green Horde, things like that. Also Deep Madness, many games that you will probably know.
Okay, so I'll essentially need a video talking to each of you about each of the two companies.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
All right.
All right, moving along then. Oh, Techno Techs. Again, the artwork. Who's this guy on the end with the... Well, his name says it all, Lightning. Who is this?
Right, so Lightning is this fella.
So that would probably be the only non-hacker in the team.
Oh, right.
He can still hack you by grappling you or by pushing you, because he's got this electrical currents in his
Not
arms.
only by pushing you or grappling you, by being pushed or grappled by you.
You lay hands on this guy, he will get you.
Yeah. So whenever that happens, someone is getting a hack token. So he's dangerous. Just don't play with him. Just let him fly.
Do his own thing.
Yeah. Yeah, he's quite fun.
Yeah, and again, I'm loving the actual pose here, because it does look as if he's just mid-leap going after somebody. And it's something that you guys have a bit more freedom to do, because you're playing in a zero-G environment.
Yeah.
You can have people twisting, turning, floating, moving which way you can think. Where you're not going to have the classic pose of leader is a guy with a foot on a rock.
Yeah. This was something we really wanted to explore. We did a miniature that was flying for our Faith RPG miniatures line. And then we decided we just have to do an entire line of flying dudes.
Yeah.
How do we do it?
I'm digging it. I'm totally digging it. And then, of course, the game itself. This is the core set of Core Ball. What are people going to get in this?
So we're still in the final phases of designing the actual contents of the box. But at the very least, you will get all the miniatures you need for a two-player game, as well as the terrain, the board, all the cards, all that. And we are considering whether or not to put 2 additional teams in there, just to give you a bit more variety.
Yeah, because it's a 2 to 4 player game. Yeah. So it's mainly designed to do competitive 2-player games, but you can play 3 for all or 2 versus 2.
Yeah. I love the sound of the 2 versus 2, because it's the synergies that we're talking about here with the different characters, everybody having their own ability, seeing those chain effects, those knock-on effects just rolling out across the board could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and in the 2 versus 2, your friend doesn't have to have the same team, so he could be playing the Space Arcs and I can be playing the Techno Ticks, and that gives you unique interactions that don't happen otherwise.
Yeah,
and then you can put on top of that the Mercenaries again.
Yeah, exactly. So you can, if you plan it well, it can be a crazy match.
Yeah. Now, I accidentally flicked across an image there, so I'll bring it on up. This is actually a close-up of some of the sculpts and poses you guys have done. And seeing it in the grey plastic, you really do get the sense of just how many components you guys are working on to put this together. I know sometimes whenever a company's doing this, they'll try and keep the sculpts very, very simple, but you guys have kind of pushed the boat out on this one, which I'm impressed. Very much so.
Thank you. Well, it's actually when you stop thinking about just cutting the head, cutting the arms, cutting the legs, and assembling the miniature like that, you get a lot of interesting options, and you can do more than it looks like you could do with just 2 or maybe 3 pieces, three parts. So if you cut the pieces with some
creative thinking.
creative thinking, yeah, you will get lots of things like this.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, like, I'm looking at the character on the right hand side here. I'm seeing you're actually playing with some of the void space, the negative space within the character.
Yes.
Some of the actual areas where armor plate is sucking way in.
Yeah.
And it looks as if there's perhaps actually even a gap there. And on the other side, just seeing the flow and the movement as if there is nothing holding me in position. I am literally just waiting to fire thrusters to move along. The next one, again, this is
Lightning.
this is lightning. And again, seeing that sense of motion that is just coming directly for you.
Yeah.
Something incredible to capture in miniatures.
Yeah, this is actually the work of, to me, some of the best sculptors in the miniatures world, like Hugo Gomez or Alejandro Muñoz or Daniel Fernandez. They're just like world-class sculptors, and we wanted to bring them in on this project to get the most out of the flying poses. It was really an important thing that we wanted to explore.
And then whenever you get them painted up, just look at this, guys. I mean, are these ones that you bring along to events for whenever people are coming to see you at like Essen and things like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
These were first displayed at Essen last year. And
Yes.
yeah.
I remember because we did the interview with you guys,
Yeah.
and I was standing with the camera going, I wish I was playing right now. I wish I was playing right now. But I love just the amount of detail you're working into these. Because again, it is a board game, but you guys are going over the top on the sculpts. You're not letting it just be, oh, it's just gaming pieces. You are making full-on gorgeous miniatures. And that's something that just warms my heart. Right, anything we missed?
No, I think that's basically it. Yeah, we're very happy with the game. We work in the design for over 2 years without having any miniatures, anything like that. So we really put our heart in the design, although we were playing with this ugly, crappy. Can I say that?
No, that's not these. That's not these.
Right, and it was magnificent to send that over to a big child and see that become this. Like instead of just tokens with the names written on them.
It's like you take a leap of faith.
Yes.
And it works.
Yes.
It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's something always very special whenever you have a concept and you meet someone who just snaps and it gets the idea.
And they
of what
bring
you're
it
trying
to a different level.
There you go.
Exactly.
All right, well, I tell you what, everybody, get your comments in below. Tell us, what do you think of Core Ball? Are you looking forward to this one? I know I certainly am. Get those comments in. We'll move on. We'll see you again soon.